Welcome to Shazza's Laughter Hour here at Radio Northern Beaches 88.7 or 90.3 FM, or you can live stream through the website rnb.org.au or through the radio app TuneIn Radio. Now, you're listening, so you've already done one of those three options, so I don't even really need to mention it, but I will anyway. Now, today I have a very special guest. She is Vanessa Ballard. She is a former scriptwriter for television and film, a former stand-up comedian, and she's now currently working as a professional marriage celebrant, baby naming celebrant and funeral celebrant. And I believe, Vanessa, you also worked at Manly Fun Pier many years ago when it was there.
Yes, thanks for having me, Shazza. Yes, early in my working career, I used to be a ride operator at Manly Fun Pier. For those of you who remember, it was out on a jetty. It had the octopus and the Ferris wheel, and what else did it have? The crazy train and the mirror maze. My job on there once was the Ferris wheel, and these were in the days before occupational health and safety.
Of course, no one had any of that going on.
Nobody had that, and I was just given a leather pouch and pointed in the direction of the Ferris wheel, and off you go. And so I started, and it was, I remember it was the Queen's birthday, so it was a long weekend. And it was a Monday, it was the Monday, and it was absolutely packed, and I had no idea how to operate this Ferris wheel. And the interesting thing is with a Ferris wheel is you have to balance the people on it. So you put them on at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then you fill the carriages around there.
Goodness
basically.
Me.
So you must balance it, but I didn't know that. So I put people on at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, then just left the rest of the carriages empty at the early stages when it wasn't packed. And then up went the Ferris wheel, around it went grinding to the top, almost in slow motion, and then it would just swing through straight past me. And this happened over and over again. Anyway, children were screaming, parents were screaming. I could not stop the Ferris wheel. It was out of control. It was, I don't think I'd only been working there. I'd moved my way up from the crazy trains. I'd worked my way up, and so that was a very scary thing. And I think I had to get the guys over from the octopus and from another ride, I think it was the Sizzler, to come and help me stop this out of control Ferris wheel. And it was frightening.
What a way to start your working life.
Yes, and that's when they explained to me how to load the carriages. And then
which they should have explained perhaps before you actually started loading carriages.
It might have been helpful.
But anyway, it was the good old days when we didn't worry about that sort of thing.
We didn't know about it.
No.
Just off we went. But I made a lot of money that day, I remember, because it got more and more packed and we didn't have any more mishaps after that.
No.
So
that was all that emotional scarring from those young children on there. Well, never mind. I'm sure they're fine now. It was probably a lot of fun for them.
I think so. They'll never forget Manly.
No.
I don't think. I mean, what is it? 1,000 miles from care.
That's it. Except if you're on one of those rides back in those days. And now you've turned all of that wonderful experience into being a professional marriage celebrant, and also baby naming celebrant and a funeral celebrant.
Yes, that's right.
Where you started and where you end up is quite different sometimes in life. It's a journey.
It really is. I've had so many different jobs. I mean, I went into film and television early on and worked in the production office for years, organising shoots all around New South Wales, different films, different TV shows, and
was this out of high school, Vanessa? Did you do university or college?
I studied film and television production at North Sydney TAFE.
Okay.
And at that stage I thought I was going to be an editor, but then I ended up in the office. And being in the office on a film shoot is absolutely full on. You work enormous hours and you're under a lot of stress and pressure, but you learn how to work fast and you learn how to get things done.
Yes.
And that to be honest, has helped me no end as a celebrant. And then after working in production, I moved into script writing, and I always used to look at the script writing department and just think, I really want to be in that department, not just because they left at 4:00 in the afternoon. But little did I know that they weren't really leaving at 4:00, and they were leaving at 4:00 in the afternoon to go home and write a script.
Yes.
So they actually worked incredible hours as well.
Yeah.
And I transitioned into that and worked on. Wrote scripts for Home and Away. I worked on a show called House Husbands, and another show in Western Australia called Lockie Leonard, and based. Well, that was series 2, but one of my favourite writers is Tim Winton. I've just finished his book, Shepherd's Hut. It's absolutely fantastic. But Lockie Leonard was based on his character from his books. And then sometimes the work was a bit sporadic with writing, and I thought, what else can I do? I need to do something else part-time just to keep the money coming in between.
Yeah.
And also, writing can be a bit lonely at times because you're at home by yourself, and I'm actually quite social, so I just thought I want to do something else as well. And I thought, I've been to a few weddings. I mean, in your 30s, I've spent a lot of my time as, I call it a professional wedding guest, and every weekend you're going to a wedding, and so I would observe these ceremonies, and some of them weren't much chop, to be honest. They weren't very engaging, and they were really stilted and formal, and my friends were really easygoing, and I thought, well, this is odd. And then I started thinking about it, that I could do this. I'd been doing stand-up for some time, and I thought, well, I can get up in front of people. I can do admin, and I can do forms. Yes. And I can write, because I can write scripts.
You can write scripts, and you can write funny stand-up comedy.
Well, this is true. So I just thought...
So you got into stand-up comedy, was that after you or while you were working in television production?
Yes, while I was working. I was about
Just had the urge.
37. I just wanted to see if I could do it. I was
just me
curious.
too. Just a bit of an urge.
Yeah, and I got up for my first open mic night, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. And you do 5 minutes, and my first night, absolutely in the industry I killed, and that means I did very well. And I thought, well, that's it, I'm so good at this. And then I went on to bomb consistently for about a year. Yeah, that's often how it goes. I was terrible. But I kept going with it, and I'd have my great nights and my not so great nights. That's part of comedy. That's just part of it. You have to learn to epically fail.
But it gave you the right training ground for going into the celebrant work.
It does. It makes you resilient, and that's what you need when you do funerals. You need to be able to stand up in front of a group and just keep going, because people are sobbing.
That's it.
Basically. And they need to know that the person up the front is taking charge and going to handle it. And comedy gave me all those skills, because I could basically get up anywhere and, deliver jokes. Whether they were well received or not, it's a different matter, but I could do it.
But you could do it. And the thing is, you build up an instant rapport with an audience, or not sometimes, and you can use that skill when you're meeting families and discussing the funeral service. And
that's right, especially with funerals, because there's such a fast turnaround. You need to make people feel comfortable very quickly.
Immediately.
And that's something you do with comedy. You have to make the audience feel comfortable. That they're going to have a good time with you, and it's not so much that, but they just have to feel comfortable, and they have to trust you.
So Vanessa, with planning a service, whether it's a wedding or a baby naming or a funeral, for example, a prospective family or client or couple would contact you, probably through your website, or get word of mouth reference. And then do you go to their home or meet them in a cafe or in an office of some sort and just discuss it?
I do. So with weddings, we generally go to a cafe, or we have a FaceTime or Skype. Yeah. And this meeting is just to see if they click with me and if they want to use me as their celebrant. So it's just a meet and greet and a general chat. And then they get back to me. With the funerals, because it's such a fast turnaround, they need to decide if they want me before we meet, basically. Yeah. And often I might be recommended by the funeral home. The funeral homes often match up the celebrant with the family. They think this person might suit this family. And then other times families contact me directly and that process is basically they ring me. I generally go out the next day to their home, or we meet at a cafe, a quieter sort of cafe, and we'll just sit down and have a really in-depth discussion about their loved one and about what the funeral ceremony is going to look like. Sometimes it's a life celebration. Sometimes they're actually shell-shocked because it's just such a shock that they've passed away.
Yeah.
They're in all different states,
and that requires you to be sensitive and have some compassion.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you have that.
You have to be able to tune in quickly to how another person is feeling, and be able to just guide them through every step of the way. And that's what I did do. And I think also the seed was planted at my own brother's funeral. I lost my brother Ray when I was 40. When it was the Sydney Olympics. And it was a very, very, I wasn't 40, I was much younger than that.
Yes.
But what happened, we had the ceremony and it did give me some peace, but I can't really tell you what happened at that ceremony. I think that the minister could have recited the phone book. But the thing that really stuck with me was that he was such a calm presence, and he was a guiding light throughout the whole process, throughout this incredible chaos and fog of grief. Yeah. And I thought, I want to be like him. I just want to be like him. I want to guide people through so they feel comfortable, so that they know that somebody's steadfast and somebody's going to take control and do this and really honour their loved one in a beautiful way. Yeah. So you, for a brief time anyway, become part of the family and a trusted member of the family almost, and you can guide them through that very awful time with a lot of compassion. And I can see that all the work you've done leading up to this has really stood you in good stead for that kind of role. Well, it has, and you never really know what you're going to get, because sometimes I'll sit around a kitchen table with a family and we will start hysterically laughing at something. And then the family say, this is wrong, isn't it? We shouldn't be laughing. And I go, no, I've had all sorts of things. It's grief. It's just how you're coping with things. And there might be some, a few jokes thrown around as well. And we'll have a funny story about their loved one. They'll share a funny story with me and we'll all laugh, and then the next minute there'll be tears. Because they're really, they're really upset about what's happened as well. Yes. So, but that's what you're walking into. It's sort of a bit chaotic. But it's very raw. It's a huge responsibility, and I imagine it's something that you've seen from services you've attended before you did this, that you could pick up on what you thought worked well and what may not have worked well, and you've adapted that for your own work. This is true, yes. I find a conversational tone works best with both weddings and funerals, because that's the kind of person I am. I'm not a hugely formal person. But that said, there is a bit of formality to a funeral's ceremony, and there's definitely a structure to follow. And whether you follow all the components is really up to you, but it's nice to have that there to fall back on. So, but I'm also very interested in music. I really enjoy poetry. I enjoy quotes from people, so I find integrating that into a ceremony, it's something I enjoy doing as well. So you guide everyone and put it all together. Do you have a list of poems or readings or anything that you can suggest if people are at a point where they can't think of anything offhand? Yes, and I'm adding to it all the time. And sometimes the poets that have gone before us can really sort of summarise the feelings that you are feeling in a very... speak for you almost. They can speak for you. And sometimes if you can't speak at a funeral, you might be able to, share a poem. And, there's some terrific poems out there, and I have basically a PDF file, and I email that to families and they read through it together. And I think straight away the poetry that is going to suit your loved one or the situation, you can start reading some of them and go, well, that's so not us.
Yes.
You know, and that's not him. He wasn't like that. He wasn't all airy-fairy. He was a practical man. You know, he worked hard, so we'll find something else.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's personalising something that's a significant occasion for the people who are left.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Personalising it. And I think nowadays anything goes. You don't have to have a formal or a stuffy service. It can almost be quite uplifting or have elements of fun in it as well, depending on the occasion, I guess.
Well, sometimes people decide that they're going to wear bright, colourful clothes.
Yes.
You know, all sorts of things. I mean, I'm doing a funeral coming up, and the person absolutely loved Hawaii. So the grandchildren are handing out leis.
Oh, that's beautiful.
At the funeral just beforehand. And we have a Hawaiian farewell for the final song. So
oh, how beautiful.
It's just really special and geared to that person. And I guess also the thing that has come to interest me very much so is what people have chosen to do with their lives. I find the stories of the deceased really interesting, what they've chosen, what they've done for work, what they've done for pleasure, what's been important for them, what they've lived for. You know, I find this very interesting, and I actually enjoy helping with the eulogy and giving suggestions and guiding people through the eulogy. And sometimes it's not just a list of dates and facts that work. It might just be a couple of really well told stories that will really basically help you to see the character of the person. I think that's what really helps at a funeral, rather than just they were, born on this day and they did this and did that.
The more formal statistics, you make it very personal.
That's right, and the best eulogies kind of go from 5 to 7 minutes. And there might be a couple a couple of people speak, and some might talk about the childhood, some might talk about the work life, someone might talk about the married life, something like that, different. So we try and divide it up a bit so we're not all talking about the same thing.
So you can actually read almost everything out, or you can delegate and family members can read depending on whether they're upset or can read or can't read. So you're there to guide the whole service, and with your performing background and with your writing background, you actually really stitch the whole thing together. I can see it's a wonderful progression with your career.
It does bring
very good fit.
It does. It is a very good fit. And I mean, before, I always make sure there's water and tissues under the lectern. I always ask people to have a glass of water before they're about to deliver a eulogy, because their mouth can get very dry.
Yes.
When they're nervous.
Yeah.
I give them some public speaking tips and make them feel at ease before they get up. But for many people, it's a hugely confronting time because they hate public speaking and they're grieving. So you can imagine it's a double whammy, for people to get up the front of the golf club or the chapel or wherever we are and speak. That said, I will often do the eulogy for people. I'll often read it for them.
Yes.
Or I am in the background following along and can step up at any moment.
If you need to.
That said, I've never had to step in. And I always suggest when people are overcome by grief, just to have a sip of water, take a couple of deep breaths and look directly at the back of the room, across the people, and just take a moment. It's fine to take a moment. And remember, when you're delivering the eulogy, you're amongst friends and family. This is not, they're all in the same boat as you.
Yes.
And they are just so glad that they're not up there having to do it. It's just very difficult. And even with years of comedy and standing up the front of people, my experience, it's still hard for me at times. And another thing that is really good to do when you do have to speak at a funeral, and that is a really good idea, is to bring somebody up with you. They may not speak, but just having that moral support of that person standing next to you often will help you get through it. So it might be your brother or sister or a child, your son or daughter, somebody just to come up the front with you and be moral support. I highly recommend that.
You must find it very satisfying and rewarding to do this kind of work, Vanessa.
Look, it's not as rewarding as working on the Ferris wheel.
No.
Manly.
What would be?
Manly Fun Pier. I can't really advertise my services because you can't say to somebody, if you ever need my services as a funeral celebrant, you don't ever want to say that.
No, it's not really quite the thing to do.
It's not the thing to do.
And tell me, Vanessa, how did you get involved in this? Is there a course you did, or is there an association you need to join in order to be a professional celebrant, an accredited celebrant?
Yes, you do have to do a celebrant course. And I do thank the comedy background so much for that, because it makes you resilient. Even if you have a bad night, you have to keep going. And the same with funerals, because sometimes people are sobbing right in front of you, and you just have to keep on with things and not be put off by it. And that's I cannot tell you that training has been priceless for me in stand-up.
It one lends itself to the other, really. It was an excellent starting point. And tell me, Vanessa, with regards to doing what you do you have a time where you meet with families or a couple well in advance and discuss it and come up with a plan, or do you have a particular plan that you offer, or do they want something more that's individualistic to them?
Right. Well, with weddings, it's they contact me generally over the via email, or somebody has recommended me, and they contact me, might give me a call, and then we'll arrange a time to meet, or at a cafe or a pub, or other times we just have a Skype or a FaceTime.
Yeah.
Because really the first meeting is to see if we click, and it's important that you click with your celebrant, because it's a very big day for people getting married, and you don't want to feel uncomfortable, you know.
No.
So we have that first meeting, and I live in Freshwater, and we generally have it at a cafe down the road from me here, room 210, which is a very nice cafe.
Lovely cafes here.
And we have a meeting there, and I generally know towards the end of that meeting, it might only be a half an hour and a latte, I kind of know if they're going to go with me most of the time, and often they'll say, yes, we'd like to book you. And then we organise another time to meet again, and I'll have a bit more in-depth conversation, do some legal documents, and then the rest of the work is done via email until the day.
Yes.
So sometimes they ring me, but most people just email. And I do get the 4 a.m. emails from brides freaking out about things from time to time. But that's fine. I'll just get back to them as quickly as I can. With funerals, it's a much quicker turnaround, because somebody will pass away and we might be doing the funeral 3 days later or a week later. It's very fast. So you go straight, you generally meet in the home of one of the family members.
Yeah.
I always try and sit at the kitchen table, because it's just then you've got a table and you can write notes, and it's you're comfortable.
Kitchens are always usually a warm place in a home.
That's right.
Where food's prepared and family members gather, and
that's right.
Food is such a comforting thing too.
It really is, and if they ask me, do you want a cup of tea, I always say yes, because just the making the cup of tea for them brings a bit more normality into their world, which has just gone out of control because they've just lost someone that they love. And then the next thing I always ask for is to see some photos, because I don't want to start learning about somebody. I just think you can tell a lot about the photos. So I get them to say, we've got a couple of photos, and we have a look at those, and we just have a general chat about the person. And I just listen a lot of the time. I mean, I do work from a sheet with some questions, but that's really just a prompt. I'm really there just to talk about the person.
It's a starting point.
That's right.
To get them comfortable, and you have your basic questions, and then you can become more personalised.
Because we want to look at what you want the ceremony to look like. So we look at music, we look at poetry. I've got a collection of poems that I can email them, and they can have a look through that.
And they would choose one?
They might choose one, because a lot of them, sometimes they say to me, I don't think I can speak, but I might be able to read a poem. Or I might suggest that, And often they will write the eulogy, but they'll give it to me to read. Yeah. I've read many eulogies because they just feel that they can't get up and speak. And then other people doubt they can get up and speak, and then on the day they can do it. Yeah. So you just don't know.
Have a flexible approach. and be mindful and sensitive to the emotions that people have on the day.
This is right. And we also look at the choreography, which might sound a bit strange, but is the coffin going to be pallbeared in? Is it going to be taken out? Is it going to be already there when we arrive? We discuss this because sometimes families think, right, no, we want to carry Granddad in. We want to honour him and carry his coffin. That's the way we're going to go. So we do that. Then others go, no, we'd like it to be there in place already. And then others, again, have a memorial. So it might be at a surf club or a golf club, and we might have a table up the front with the ashes and some photos and maybe the cricket hat, I mean, we often display things that the person loves. I've had barbecue shapes up on a coffin before, and because they loved their barbecue shapes, and or it might be a bottle of Bundy rum. People have had their mobile phones. I mean, I can't tell you. It's just something that they've loved.
Yes, yeah. And do you work in with the is it a funeral parlour or funeral home? An organisation that will do the actual burial. Do you work in with those people to?
Yes, I'm an independent funeral celebrant, but I work with all funeral homes. So sometimes people contact me direct, and they book me, and I contact the funeral home that they've organised, and I let them know that I'll be doing the ceremony. And that's great. And I've worked with many, many funeral homes all over New South Wales now.
Oh, right. So it's not just the Northern Beaches, it's all over.
Well, it's mainly the Northern Beaches, but basically I've done the eastern suburbs and all around the place. I work with all of them, but I am independent, so I'm not affiliated with any one funeral home.
Yes, yeah. So people can book you in, and then you work in with the other people that are the other components of the service.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so once we work out what will happen in the ceremony, and I find out about the person who's passed away or the deceased, I then go home and I do a run sheet, which is basically what is going to happen in the ceremony. So we're going to have my welcome and introduction, and then we're going to have perhaps a poem, and then we might have a letter to Granddad, and then we might have the eulogy, and then often we'll have a photo tribute. So that's where the family puts together photos on a PowerPoint presentation to music, and that is a really heart-wrenching time as well, because the photos bring up so many memories, and so what we do try and do is any talking that needs to happen from the family, we try and do that up front before we go to the DVD, to the photo tribute. After that, we might have a prayer or and then we have the committal, which is basically where we say a collective goodbye. And we always stand for that, and I basically speak on behalf of the family and say farewell. And that is also a very difficult time. And then after that, people will take a seat, and I will offer some words of comfort at the end, something that's hopeful and uplifting, just to try. I mean, it's very hard when you've lost somebody to be uplifted, but I try and offer something at the end, and then we'll have a track to exit to, piece of music. And I always suggest that point, we try and choose something uplifting.
I was going to ask you, Vanessa, music is a very important component in a service such as this, in a wedding or a funeral. What kind of music, do you have a list of music you can suggest if they don't have their own?
I do.
Are there any that you would suggest to our listeners if you are having a funeral service?
Yeah, well, I've had so many different tracks. I mean, I've had Bittersweet Symphony by Verve, right through to Amazing Grace.
Wow, that covers a lot.
It covers everything. I Will Always Love You, Whitney Houston, also the Dolly Parton version, which I absolutely love myself, being a massive Dolly Parton fan.
Yeah.
You hear In the Arms of an Angel by Sarah McLachlan, that's really popular. And Looking Forward, Looking Back, which is a Slim Dusty tune. A lot of Frank Sinatra, My Way.
Yeah.
That's very popular. I have had Wind Beneath My Wings by Bette Midler. And What a Wonderful World would probably be the most popular track I've had at funerals. But I've also had Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, because that particular person that we were seeing off, so to speak, was a real larrikin and a jokester. And, you know, when it came on, everybody smiled. It was just the instrumental version.
That's a huge emotional relief when you can have a smile at a funeral for someone you loved, isn't it?
I think any time you can get the gathering smiling, comedy is a wonderful device when it comes to giving people a sort of release, you know, and it can be very tense at a funeral. Sometimes families aren't speaking. It's all sorts of things you get. So any kind of time when you can bring a smile to somebody's face, it's just so worth it, and it does ease the tension. And
bring people together, even if it's just for an hour or so.
That's right.
With a nice piece of music.
That's right. And people sometimes just forget that they're fighting, and they put it aside. Forget
the grievances for the moment, at least.
They put it aside for an hour or so. Also, we hear a lot of classical, which I quite like. Claire de Lune's popular Four Seasons. The Lark Ascending by Vaughan Williams. That's another one which is great for funerals. I've always said for myself I'd like to have Back in Black by AC/DC.
That was Back in Black by AC/DC from their 1980 album Back in Black. And you're listening to Shazza's Laughter Hour here at Radio Northern Beaches. And back now to our interviewee today, Vanessa Ballard. And what kind of music do you like personally, Vanessa? Your own favourite stuff from when you were younger, or enjoyable music you like now? What would you listen to in the car?
Well, you know, I was a teenager in the 80s, so I kind of loved the 80s. I love Madonna and all her stuff, and I grew up with ABBA and, Bananarama and those sorts of people. But now, and I had so many CDs, I used to buy them all the time, and now I don't put any CDs on. I just listen to Spotify or, and I choose a playlist. Yeah. I really seem to enjoy things like Yacht Rock, which is a playlist of stuff from like the late 80s and early 90s.
Makes us feel young again,
I know,
doesn't it? We kick our heels up.
Oh, kick my heels up. But then, I don't mind a bit of Daft Punk, and so I kind of have got eclectic taste, and I also quite like country music. So I listen to all sorts of things in the car, but I'm also a podcast fan, so I listen to a lot of podcasts too.
I think music reflects our mood at the time, and sometimes a piece of music is just perfect for how you're feeling at the time. On the day, you might need something lively to be uplifting, or you might need to calm down. I often find if I'm in the car, I have some classical piano. If I'm in a very bad mood and it's hot, I put the aircon on and put some classical piano on, and it stops me from punching anyone or having road rage. And other times I want something more lively.
Oh, yeah, I find myself a lot of the time listening to a lot of Aussie rock.
What Aussie rock would you like? We might have some Aussie rock on the show.
A bit of In Excess.
Oh,
or
yes.
Australian Crawl.
Oh, yes.
Something you'd put on at a barbecue.
Yes, a nice barbecue, a coldie.
Barbecue anthem.
Put some snags on.
I quite like that.
What would be your favourite In Excess song if you have one? Or your top three?
In Excess, I would probably say I Need You Tonight.
Yes,
be one of mine.
Very sexy, isn't it?
Yes, I quite like that.
Someone rings you up and sings that to you, you're going to be over there in a flash, aren't you?
That's right. Lots of In Excess songs, and also Australian Crawl. I guess, Boys Light Up, and Reckless, because it mentions the Manly Ferry.
Oh, yes. Well, that's important.
So that's quite a good song.
I always like a song that mentions the Manly Ferry.
That's right. I don't know any other songs that mention the Manly Ferry. So,
no, not many. Unless they're, drunken people on it late at night. Man, we're on a ferry. And they're just on the phone to someone.
This is true. So, some old Aussie rock.
And I do believe In Excess were from the Northern Beaches originally, weren't they?
Well, they were. And I see Kirk Bengilly, all the time in freshwater with Lane Beachley.
Just hanging out,
walking around at the post office.
Oh, at the post office.
Having a drink at the bar there. What's it called? Stowaway.
Oh, okay.
So
that's
yes,
nice.
Rubbing shoulders with the stars.
That's it. That's what freshwater in the Northern Beaches is all about.
It's all about it.
Go to the post office and see one of your musical heroes from your youth.
That's right.
It's marvellous. And do you like going to the beach, Vanessa, or
yes.
do you swim or just walk up and down it like I do?
Well, I'm a person that likes to watch waves, and for me that really calms me down. And
waves are extreme. Waves actually change our brain waves.
Oh.
It has been shown in brain scans that if you are at the beach, the motion of the wave coming in changes our actual brain wave to a more relaxed one, which is when it's better for our immune system. And of course the negative ions flowing off the sea spray.
Right.
Water is very healthy, so a waterfall, even having a shower, does actually wash off not just negative emotions, but it can actually affect your brain function, and negative ions are very healthy for us.
Oh, well, that's...
So you get all that from the beach.
I had no idea. I just thought it was something that I enjoyed doing.
Well, you enjoy it.
I enjoyed it. It relaxes me. And I also really quite like North Palm Beach as well, and South. So, yeah, that's a nice
Do you ever
beach.
go and watch them filming Home and Away? Are you there for that?
No, I must say I don't go to Summer Bay, but I often go to the boathouse, which I think they use as the which I know they use as the cafe in Summer Bay. I like to have lunch there, so yeah, that's where I had my Christmas party. As a celebrant, you work for yourself, so I decided, well, I'm not going to miss out on a Christmas party just because I don't have any colleagues. I'm going to have my own, and I took myself off to the boathouse. Had a couple of drinks. I had to sober up though because I didn't have a taxi docket to get home. So then, I took myself off my own Christmas celebration.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And
are you a member of any kind of association where you could maybe next time at Christmas say, how about we all have a Christmas meal?
I am joking. I am a member of a social association, and we do have drinks. I'm not.
Yes.
But I also have my own celebration as well.
Well, you are a celebrant, so why not celebrate?
This is right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I imagine with the wedding side of your work, that obviously is a little bit more of a fun occasion, generally speaking.
Yeah.
It's a whole different tone. What kind of music do they have at weddings? I mean, we've talked about some of the pieces of music or songs that you've had at funerals or seen at funerals or suggest. Are there any unusual kinds of musical pieces or songs that you've heard at a wedding, or any that are memorable?
Well, I did a wedding once, and the bride walked down the aisle to Like a Virgin by Madonna.
Oh dear.
And she had done online dating, and she thought the words of the song really made a lot of sense to her because she had made it through the wilderness, which she felt like that's what online dating was a bit like.
Because when we were younger, online dating was not an option.
No, there was no swiping left or right.
No.
None of that.
No, you just going to parks and meeting people or meeting people for drinks.
You just went to the pub.
You met someone at a barbecue listening to In Excess, didn't you?
That's right. Or I met my husband at the Ivanhoe. So, you know, that's what...
Down the Stain.
Down the Stain.
I think now online dating or anything like that now, it's very mainstream. So you just get regular people.
This is true. And I would say 80% of my couples meet that way.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say easily that many because... It's just the way people meet, and you can meet in the comfort of your own home, you know.
I like to meet people in the flesh so they know what they're getting.
Yes.
You know, you're not airbrushed and you're not in your best clothes, and they can take it or leave it.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, if they like you when you're looking a bit tired and you're just, you know, in a bar or at a comedy night or down at the beach, if they see you in your swimming costume and they like you, that's a huge plus.
Then you've
that's
won
it.
them over.
That's it. If they see all the veins and the cellulite and they go, that's the one for me, you know you're in for something meaningful.
True love.
That's
true
it.
Love. Yeah, and it does work because I marry them all the time.
You marry them all the time. Do you have a general age of people you're marrying right now? Is it all ages?
All ages.
Seniors even?
Yes, I've married people in their 70s, absolutely, and Early 20s it would probably start.
Yeah, so it's a very enjoyable experience for everyone.
Yes.
Wonderful working experience, and for the families and the couple particularly.
Well, I'm happy that I do the weddings and the baby naming ceremonies because it balances things out, the sadness of the funerals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's important.
It's all part of the human condition and life stages, isn't it? You get to see all of it.
This is true. Circle of life. So the baby's born, we go to a park, we name them, then I'm there for that might be a baby of a couple that I've married.
So with baby naming ceremonies, is that usually outdoors or is it at homes or in a
we
community centre or restaurant?
It's generally in a park, and it can be a child basically from like 6 weeks to 3 or 4, and basically, and often it's done on the first birthday. So we all come together. The couple might select godparents or guide parents, they call it sometimes.
Guide parents is another way of looking at it now.
And we basically will talk about how the child has changed the parent's life. They will be very thankful for the child, particularly when it's asleep.
Yeah.
And we just talk about, we just welcome the child into the world collectively as a family, and the old it takes a village to raise a child. Well, the village comes together for this celebration, and it's a really, really special time. Take lots of photos, and it's something to mark the child coming into this world.
Do you ever get asked to share the duty with someone else?
No,
not in your situation.
No, it's the only thing that may sometimes happen from time to time is the couple may want a friend to conduct the ceremony, and I will be there for the legal bits.
I see.
So that can happen, but it's not often.
Mm.
It's not often, and so that's basically about it. But no, we don't do any tag teaming.
No tag teaming like the wrestlers.
No, doesn't happen in this situation.
No. So you are licensed to do this, so it is all legally done.
This is true.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah, and we have to do each year, as celebrants, we have to pay a fee to be a celebrant, which is $240.
Yeah.
And we also have to do training, which is a day basically of brushing up on, the legal aspects and learning stuff about social media and all sorts of things like that. So,
do you then have to lodge the legal forms?
Yes.
Is that your role?
Yes, that's my role. So I have all the forms locked away in a filing cabinet, and after the ceremony I register them electronically, so I do that online, and then I send their paperwork into births, deaths and marriages. You can scan it and keep all the paperwork, but I would just end up with so much paperwork here. I prefer to pay $1, get a stamp, might see Kurt Pengelly at the post office.
Yes, at the post office.
And I do. That's what I do.
So there's the actual service, and then there's the actual legal stuff that is as equally as important, or it's not a valid licensed.
Well, this
wedding.
Is true. People seem to think that all you do as a celebrant is turn up at a ceremony and conduct it. But there's so much
Paperwork.
work that goes on before that. There's all the prep. In fact, I would say the ceremony on the day is a very small aspect of
It's like cooking a meal. You have to do the shopping, buy the ingredients, chop up the ingredients, cook it and eat it.
This is
so
true.
It's all part of it.
Yeah, so it's a lot of work behind the scenes before you actually get to that day of conducting the ceremony. So,
Well, it sounds like you're making a huge contribution to many families, not just in the Northern Beaches, but in all around Sydney, and it sounds like a very satisfying career path.
I've never done anything in my life that has been more rewarding than this, particularly the funerals, because I can feel myself actually making a difference in people's lives. It's very hard to, as a stranger, walk into somebody's home and assist them, but you have to develop a rapport with people quickly, and I think over the years I've learnt how to do that, and you have to make people feel comfortable with you. and also that you will keep things confidential, because sometimes people share things with you that might not be meant to be shared, and that sort of thing. So that all those sorts of things, I guess to put it, bluntly, you have to be a grown-up, to be able to do this and have a decent sort of emotional intelligence, I guess, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a wonderful job you're doing, and I'm sure there are many happy families and couples and babies growing up who have somehow had something to do with you. And Vanessa, how can we find out more about you? Have you got a website?
I do. My website for weddings is Northern Beaches celebrant.net.au, and for funerals it's my name, vanessaballard.net. That used to be my comedy website, but now I'm concentrating on being a celebrant, so I changed it to funerals.
Make it more appropriate.
I have separate websites because I don't want the happy couples to go onto a wedding website and then be confronted with funerals, but I do have a link to it.
Yes.
So, yeah. And I do often build up a long friendship with families and end up marrying people in their family, and then also conducting the funeral for their loved ones as well. So
you really do become like another family member in some respects.
This is true. You really do become close with people. Yeah.
And so, Vanessa, with just about to wind up our interview, is there any little pieces of advice you can give to anyone when they're planning a wedding? The first one being perhaps marry the right person.
Well, look, if you can get that right, the rest of it's smooth sailing.
Do you need to book a venue early and book you early?
The first thing you need to do is book your venue. The second thing you need to do is book your celebrant. And the third thing you need to do is book your photographer. We all get booked out really quickly. I've got bookings right through next year already.
Gosh.
The frustrating thing with being a celebrant is you're only one person. So if you're conducting a wedding on the 2nd of November at 4 p.m, well, that's kind of it for the day, unless you can do one in the morning. And then you might get 5 or 6 inquiries for the exact same day.
Okay.
So you have to refer to other celebrants that you know and trust. So I would say, even if you think, I'm booking this celebrant too early, I'm making an inquiry too early, often I get inquiries and I'm already booked.
Yes.
So, and people think, you
Yeah.
know, so if you want to get the celebrant that you're going to like, get in early.
Yes, very good advice.
That said, there are still sometimes weekends that I've had no inquiries for, so I will be free. So
yes.
you just
so if you're going to elope in a hurry, get in touch with Vanessa.
That's
you never
right.
know, she might be free.
I might be free. You need a month. You need to make a decision a month in advance, because you need to sign some legal paperwork, and then after 1 month I can meet you at the airport, marry you, and then off you jet away to the Greek islands.
So eloping isn't just the next day. You actually have to file the paperwork for it to be legal.
1 month before.
Okay.
Exactly.
And is that an Australia-wide?
It's Australia-wide.
Every country probably has different rules about that, I
think
imagine.
it's so you don't go out and get drunk and get married.
Like Vegas.
Like a Vegas wedding. You can't do that. You have to put the paperwork in 1 month before.
Okay, that's good to know. So have you ever been asked to be an Elvis impersonator? And
no, but I'm open to it. And the way my weight's going at the moment.
You could be Elvis at any phase of his life. Young, medium, or
I could be
older.
Elvis in his, LA. In his Vegas
Las
days
Vegas residency.
Residency with the jumpsuit.
Yes. Okay, well, that's good to know. And then this similar thing, because a funeral service is, as you say, it's a quicker experience. You need to get organised. Get organised fast. Get in touch with Vanessa, and again book.
That's right. As soon as you know, you basically need to book through the funeral home or the venue where you're going to have it. That needs to be done straight away.
Yeah.
The next thing you should look at is getting your celebrant.
Yeah.
And then seeing if they're available.
Yeah.
I work to a diary. I'd never know what's on the next day. I have to look at my schedule all the time to know when I'm available and if I can do it. And also some advice to everybody here, because I meet with a lot of families, and that is, if you have, it's really good to get yourself a folder and maybe put down some final wishes. Like, get a notepad and just write what you might want in your funeral. If you do have any final wishes, and also things like your passwords to things, or where important documents are held and that kind of thing, because often I meet with grieving families and they're really stuck about what they want for the funeral, and also they've got a lot of business to take care of and they can't find any passwords or any documents and stuff like that, and when you're grieving on top of that, it just makes things more difficult. So it's just
adds
a bit
to
of
the stress.
housekeeping, really.
So that's very good advice. Have your paperwork, such as a will and an EPA.
This is right. Have it in order. What kind
of funeral you might like or not want.
Yeah.
Your deeds to your house, insurance, and all your passwords. Have it all done so you can put it away and it's out of the way. No one has to think about it afterwards.
Right. Absolutely.
And you can do that at any age. You can do it when you're...
Oh, yes, you don't
30,
just have to
40,
do it if
50
you're
or
elderly.
80.
I think you should do it now. I mean, I think it's anybody, it's good advice to anybody. And it just makes things easier for those people that you love that have to look after your business once you're gone.
So think ahead and be practical, and then get all that out of the way and it's done, and you can get on and enjoy life.
This is true.
That's right. Well, we've enjoyed having you as our special guest on Shazza's Laughter Hour this week. Thank you very much for being our guest and taking time out of your busy schedule, Vanessa Ballard. Let's give her a round of applause.
Giving myself a round of applause.
Thank you very much for coming in. And we'll be back next Thursday on Shazza's Laughter Hour, 6 to 7 p.m. here at Radio Northern Beaches 88.7, 90.3 FM. Have a happy, healthy and laughing week.